Hello everyone, welcome to Yarn Wonders. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a granny square blanket. For this particular blanket, I've used this granny square pattern. Let's get right into the video and see how this granny square pattern is done. And today I'm going to show you how to do it in a plain color, and I'll also tell you how to switch colors when you want to do a combo like this. Okay. So now let's get right into the video. To make this puff stitch flower granny square, I'm going to be using a size 2 yarn. This is pure cotton yarn and a 2.5 mm crochet hook. Okay, so I'm using a 2.5 mm crochet hook and a size 2 yarn. Other than that, you need a pair of scissors. Okay. Just like any other granny square, we are starting it off with a magic circle. As you can see, there are 8 puffs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 puffs here. So the first row of magic circle will be 16 double crochets. Okay. I'm doing 16 double crochets into the magic circle, starting off with the chain 3. So when you're crocheting in a magic circle, you have to make sure the loop doesn't come off like this, because if it comes out of the loop, then you may not be able to close the magic circle. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to close the magic circle. Okay, before you slip stitch onto the chain 3, make sure you have 16 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. Now we have to slip stitch on top of the chain 3 at the start of the row. Okay. And pull a tight loop so that you don't get confused between the slip stitches and the double crochet chains. Okay. So here, if you're changing colors, at this point you have to go to the next color. You can either choose to slip stitch with a new color or fasten off and start off with a new color. Okay, now I'm going to do this puff stitch row. So we have 16 double crochets. We need 8 puff stitches. So each puff stitch will consume 2 of these double crochets here. Let me just show you. We're going to start off with a chain 3, yarn over, insert into the same chain space here. That is, insert on top of the same double crochet that we did this chain 3, and start a puff stitch. Okay, so I'm just doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just doing this twice. When I do the third one, I'm going into the next double crochet. Okay, and I'm going to do 3 more there into the next stitch. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, You can choose to do how many ever times you want. The more you do, the more puffier the stitches will look. Okay, I'm going to stop here and hold the loop, hold the working end with my middle finger, yarn over, pull out of all the loops, still holding the loop here. Now I'm going to insert into this loop, yarn over, pull out and close my puff stitch. So again I'm going to chain 2, yarn over, go into the next V here, make 3 yarn over, pull out a loop into the first double crochet and another 3 into the next one. Okay. So make sure you adjust the height of the puff stitches every time you yarn over so that the puffs are even. So I'm holding a loop here and closing of the puff stitch. Again, chain 2, yarn over, insert, pull out a loop, yarn over, insert, pull out, 3 times into 1 and the next 3 times, again 3 times into the next stitch. So this is how we are going to create the puff stitch row. I've done 3, I've got 5 more to go. So I will meet you back at the end of this row. Make sure to close the puff stitch at the end of each stitch, otherwise it's going to look incomplete. Okay, I'll meet you back when I finish this row. So here we are at the end of this row. I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch on top of the chain 3 that we made in the start of the row. Okay. Again, if you have to change colors in the next row, this is where you'll have to change it. You can either slip stitch a new color or you can fasten off and attach a new yarn to the work. Okay, so I'm just going to continue with the same color. So this row is going to be a row of basic granny square. Okay, so I'm just going to chain 3, turn my work and do half a corner cluster. Half a corner cluster is just 3 double crochets. This chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet and we have 2 more double crochets here. So this is only half a corner. I'll finish this corner at the end of the row. And now we are going to do 1 side cluster. A side cluster is 3 double crochets and a chain 1. So between the corner cluster and the side cluster also you have to chain 1. Again I'm going to chain 1. So we're going to create a corner cluster here. So this is the basic granny square pattern. If you're not familiar with this pattern, do watch the day 1 of the series. I've linked the video in the description box. Okay. So I'm going to finish this row and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. So here we are at the end of this row. In this row we have done 1 side cluster between 2 corner clusters. Okay, so basically we have converted these 8 puff stitches into 4 corners and 4 side cluster stitches. Okay, so I'm going to finish the other half of this corner cluster. Okay. You can continue increasing the size of this granny square by using the basic granny square pattern also, but here I want the stitches to be slightly close to each other, so I'm switching the pattern to a normal square pattern like this. Okay, let me show you how it's done. So I'm just going to chain 1, turn my work, slip stitch into this corner space, make 5 chains and 1 double crochet. So this chain 5 and 1 double crochet is 1 corner stitch, and we are going to crochet 1 double crochet into every stitch from the previous row. Okay. So here I am at the chain 1 space. Here again you have to crochet 1 double crochet into the chain 1. Okay. This gives a slightly close knit pattern. So make sure you crochet into each and every double crochet stitch from the previous row. Okay. So again we are at the corner. Here we are going to make a corner V, which is a double crochet, chain 2 and another double crochet into the same chain 2 space. The chain 5 at the start of the row counts as 1 double crochet and a chain 2. Okay. I'm going to continue this until the end of this row. I'll meet you back at the start of the next row. So here I am at the end of this row. So make sure you crochet into the last stitch here. Now we are going to slip stitch into this chain 3 that we made at the start of the row. Slip stitch into the chain space, chain 5. Chain 5 is again going to be 1 double crochet and chain 2, and make a double crochet into the same chain 2 space. And now so this V stitch here is the corner stitch from the previous row. So we have to in this row we have to crochet on top of this these 2 double crochets as well. Okay, otherwise you're going to decrease the size of the granny square. So make sure you crochet on both the sides of this V stitch. Okay, let me just show that to you in the next when we reach to the next corner as well. So here we are nearing the next corner. So this is the double crochet just before the corner V stitch. So we're going to do 1 stitch there, and now this double crochet here is part of the corner V stitch. So if you just follow the double crochet, you'll spot a V stitch here. Okay, so you have to crochet into that stitch as well. Okay, and then crochet into the V, making another corner stitch for this row, and then again spot the double crochet from the corner stitch and crochet on top of the V. So this is the double crochet, and this V is the chain from the double crochet. So this is how we have to continue the work. I'll meet you back once I finish this row. So here we are at the end of this row. I have slip stitch on top of the chain 3, and I'm going to fasten off. Okay. So this is how you do a puff stitch.
So before I started making out the granny squares, I decided on the pattern that I'm going to be crocheting. I made a sample square in every color that I'll be using, and I kind of put it together in a particular pattern that I want. Okay, so this is the best way to visualize the blanket, because a crochet blanket is a huge product, and you don't want to feel unsatisfied after you have completed the product. So it is better to try it out like this. This kind of gives the final look, and you can go about with making a blanket to any size that you want. So the size of my blanket is, the width is 48 inches, and the height is 24 inches. So according to that, I kind of measured the squares, and this is the pattern that I've got. So in each color, that is this is when I mean beige, this is the beige color, and I would need 78 of those. And this one here is the purple color, it is this here, and this one here is the orange color, and this one is the red one. So I've kind of arranged everything in a particular order that I want, and I've counted the number of square that I have to make, and now it is done, and I'll show you how I have put together the blanket.
So according to the pattern that I created, I have made all these squares. So I have enough squares to finish the whole blanket. And now at this point, I'm going to join these two squares. So things that you have to make sure before joining two granny squares is that it has to be at the front side. You can decide which one you want as the front and which one you want as the back. In this one, yeah, this is the front portion here. You would want to flip the granny square like this, and now you have to crochet these two edges. Okay, so that is after we connect and we open, this should be the front portion, right? And you want the slip, you want that slip knot or the slip stitch to be at the back, so you have to pick it up accordingly. So what I've done here is, I have picked up the back loop of this one and the front loop of this one, right? So now I'm going to be using the same color, that is I'm going to be using the main color to finish off the to attach the granny squares together, right? So just pick up a loop, and then you kind of turn and you continue, So the easiest way to crochet is you have to match the corners. So this is one corner and this is another corner. So when you align these two, everything else is going to fall in place, and you can easily connect it like that. So since we are going to be crocheting in one single color, you can play around with the way that you want to attach, and you can kind of use one continuous thread. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. You have to crochet like it's a cross. That is, now this beige is the center portion. So now this beige portion, this is going to be the center, and we are going to kind of finish off this as one whole square. So the next part is whatever comes above this will be the next part. So according to my pattern, so it's going to be like this. So now I will attach this portion, and when I come here, it's going to be this color. So I'll attach this, and here it's again going to be this color. So this is the way that you can minimize the number of yarn tails, and you can kind of work like that. So I'm going to do this whole thing, and I'll meet you back when I get here. So before we go to the next step, I wanted to show you, how to. So this is the portion here. We are going to connect it like this. It's the working end. Yeah, that's the working end. So now kind of pick up the corner first so that it's aligned, and in this case it has to be aligned to the second stitch here. That is to this. There are like you'd have done 2 chains, and one chain you'll have to connect to this, and one chain you'll have to connect to this. So pick up the one that you have to connect to the beige. That is the one which is closer to the beige, and start making the slip stitch. Right. So you can kind of it's like how you draw a pattern without taking the pen out of the paper. So it's very similar to that. You have to kind of go back and forth, and you can use a single thread to connect the whole portion. Of course, you can sew this in as well, but then I find it easier to slip stitch than to sew it in like that. I'm not very good at sewing, and I prefer to use it. Connect my granny squares with slip stitches. And if you are able to stitch it up, then that if you find that easy, then you can do that as well. When you stitch up, it doesn't have actually much yarn tails that you have to take care at the end of the work. You can just stitch it up like rows by columns, and you can finish it off, but I prefer to do it with the slip stitch. Right, so this is done. Now we have to find the next part. So this row, and this is the next portion here. Right, so now we have to pick up the second chain, and we have to connect it to the second chain here as well. So this is 1 and 2. So this is the second chain. I'm kind of doing it from the center of the blanket so that I can use a single yarn thread. Okay. So this is done. You have to connect these two together, for the perfect square. And now we are at this portion, which is the orange one again, and I'm going to finish it off. Right, again align the corners. done with the cross here. So now you have to fill in, you can fill in this portion here. It is, you can either come back like this and then treat this as the center of the cross, and finish this portion like that. So you can choose how you want to attach the blanket. So I'm going to be doing it this way, and I'll meet you back once I've completely attached all the squares, and I'll show you the end product. So I've done with the granny square blanket. As you can see, this is how the finished product will look like. You can use any granny square pattern that you want and make a blanket like this. And if you like this video, do subscribe to my channel. And if you have any doubts, please leave it in the comment section below. And if you make a blanket using this pattern, do tag me on Instagram at Soumya_yarnwonders. Thank you for watching.